Quotation from myself, segment 2, number 30. Like other philosophers before and after him, Plato has his favorite set of subjects and ideas which he would explore in his writings over and over again. Yet, even among the most repeated themes, there is one that stands out and runs through all Plato's dialogue: the position of philosophers in society. In his not totally unbiased opinion, they are veritably a breed apart from the rest of humanity. They are endowed with all possible virtues and the only ones qualified to rule. Now, considering Plato's opinion of himself as the greatest after Socrates among Greek philosophers, hasn't he defeated each one of them, albeit as Socrates' alter ego, in his dialogues? And also his position as a head of academy, the leading school of philosophy in Greece, this aspect of Plato writing can be viewed as a remarkable case of self-advertising. Number 31. Plato refutes the rule by finding an exception, but then he turns around and presents the same exception as a rule. And in this he is not significantly different from the majority of men, for everyone knows somebody who, to prove his point, does exactly the same thing. Number 32. The man who is the most obsequious to those above him is usually the one who is also the most arrogant and obnoxious towards those below him. Number 33. Any movement is relative. That's why we can notice that life is passing us by only when it is accompanied by somebody else. Number 34. He was a man addicted to suffering. His own pain was not enough for him. He had, at least vicariously, to suffer the pain of the others too. Such a greed for pain is unnatural, and like anything unnatural, was bad for him. Number 35. And what about all this unused, wasted cleverness one has acquired by reading wise books and thinking over them? What to do with it? One has to let it out somehow in order not to explode by holding it inside like the fermenting wine in a sealed bottle. But when this bottle of cleverness and wisdom start pouring out of you, it's like a deluge, and everybody in a close proximity feels flooded over and naturally tries to escape it in fear for his mental sovereignty. And you always find yourself afterwards feeling even more alone than before and more depressed on the top of it. Number 36. Do you know how it feels to be always the recipient of the reflected warmth? Number 37. In order to take control of your life and to make the right decisions, try to reduce your choices to the manageable amount. But don't overdo it, lest you start to feel that your life is becoming too impoverished. Number 38. Biblical texts represent the strongest and the fullest criticism of human nature and of the society created by man. Yet there is a hope in it. There must be a hope. And the name of hope is God. The Bible without God is the most pessimistic document of mankind. Maybe because of faith in God, biblical writers had allowed themselves to be so uncompromisingly, even brutally honest. Or maybe faith is an excuse for the desire to live despite all the futility and horrors of life. Number 39. The desire for the continuation of life is a desire to do what gives us pleasure. For different people it could be different things. For some food, for others sex, yet for other art, etc. But as long as man finds a pleasure in doing something, he usually wants to do it in perpetuity, and for this he must continue to live. Life, therefore, can be viewed as a continuous activity in the pursuit of pleasure. Number 40. This is a quotation from the article in the Globe and Mail. Several Western countries, including Canada, were reluctant to have the conference at all. They fear it would inspire arguments that could not be won. What a revealing statement. Do they always have to win the argument? And how peculiar in English Canadian is attitude of reluctance to be engaged in any spontaneous, informal discussion, the outcome of which is not known beforehand. It also betrays a deep-seated sense of intellectual insecurity, requiring constantly to put on a facade of self-assertion, often bordering on arrogance. And all this is being done in the name of a short-sighted pragmatism. To win for what? For comfortable and secure, but dull and essentially lonely life as a result of depriving themselves and the other of the most natural of all human interaction, free, spontaneous, and uninhibited conversation, where mind meets mind, soul meets soul, and man meets man. And everybody wins, because by doing this, we have nothing to lose but our loneliness. Number 41. It takes a really great philosopher to assume, to prove his point, or simply for argument's sake, a single tree to be a forest, and then to get lost in it. Number 42. Being a man, I don't know if women in general have greater than men capacity for love. On the other hand, being a man, I am almost certain that in some particular cases, women definitely have greater capacity for hate than men. Number 43. The thin veneer of civilization is still better than no veneer at all, but it must be viewed and treated as such, and not as a thick and solid wall. Number 44. Big can only be beautiful when it had evolved from a beautiful small. That which was ugly at the beginning will only get uglier as it grows bigger. Number 45. We know all about a girl that kissed an ugly frog and got herself a charming prince, which is indeed in vogue. Yet one more story must be told, as true as the one in vogue, about a girl that kissed a prince and turned him into a frog. Number 46. Ask, and maybe it will be given to you. But if you don't ask, even what you already have will be taken away from you. Number 47. If they are creme de la creme, I wonder sometimes what was the quality of milk this creme was made of. Number 48. The light we see at the end of the tunnel usually comes from a lamp hanging at the entrance to the next one. Number 49. For an intellect to be ignored is much worse than to be oppressed. Number 50. Every pleasure has its measure, which makes it a burden or a treasure. Number 51. Whatever the topic, my conversation with other people will run more or less smoothly until I say something out of the ordinary, at least from my interlocutor's point of view. From that moment on, almost without exceptions, it is I who became the main subject of conversation, and whatever has been discussed before moves to the second place or disappears altogether. Number 52. Judaism hasn't been, for the most part of its existence, a state religion, and therefore has to depend on persuasion rather than force to keep a faith alive. Since it could not coerce, it had to convince, to give reason for a belief, and in this sense it was a religion by consensus, more democratic than most religions of the past or even of the present. Number 53. Every man lives in a private world of his own experience, from which his unique knowledge is derived. Thus, one man can only understand another to the degree their knowledge coincides, which in turn depends on how similar their respective experiences are. On a scale from 0 to 1, assuming that 0 represents complete absence of any similarity and 1 total sameness of their experience, we are always somewhere between those two extremes, never reaching either. Consequently, though we can never understand each other completely, some degree of mutual comprehension is always not only possible, but indeed present. Number 54. There are no theorems without axioms. Otherwise, no proof can ever be finished. Certain things just have to be accepted as obvious. If not, every statement can be questioned ad infinitum, since everything is explained in terms of something else, which in each term is explained through something else again, and so on and so forth. This phenomena had necessitated the development since ancient time in every society of the system of axioms, which could be compared to a system of beliefs, kind of religion of axioms. But this particular religion, unlike any other, is almost universally accepted. It represents the common human heritage, uniting Australian Aboriginal and nuclear physicists as members of one human family, helping them to understand each other despite the enormous differences that separate them.